I'm seeing some videos on YouTube where people are saying the opposite of what I've been saying. And these are people who've never had nor reversed osteoporosis. I'm GloryB and this is GloryB-TV. I reversed osteoporosis naturally without the drugs when I was 61 years old. I now have several videos where I've talked about the solution for building real strong bone by natural means, thereby reversing osteoporosis. More recently, I've become aware of people on YouTube who are saying you can eat food that creates an acidic condition in your body and still have strong bones. And they're saying studies confirm this. Meanwhile, they don't link to any of these so-called studies in their video's description box. I, on the other hand, will give you links to articles, for example, which quote studies proving that if your body leans acidic, then it will look for other sources of calcium in your body to pull from. Well, where is your body going to get this calcium? From your bones, of course. Dr. Denise Shostek has been doing telemedicine with several of my viewers. Many of them have acidic conditions in their bodies, and that needs to change. The food we eat and the drinks we drink contribute to having either an acidic body or an alkaline body. How can we test at home for bodily acidity or alkalinity? Well, with a packet of these pH test strips. I'll have them linked in the description box below the video, along with links to articles for you to read to do more of your own research. To get to the description box, go below the video. You'll see the word more. Tap the word more wherever you see it, and then scroll down through the section and go to the section called Products Shown or Mentioned. With this test strip, you'll pull off a piece that's long enough to test your own urine, and you'll test your urine first thing in the morning when you get up. So you want a piece that's long enough, if you know what I mean. After you pee on it, put it on a piece of tissue or paper towel because it's going to drip a little bit. The color scale to compare it to is right on the outside of the test strip package. It ranges from 5.5 in the yellow for most acidic to 8.0 in the dark blue for most alkaline. And of course, 7.0 is right in the middle between acidic and alkaline. You want your body to be in the range of like 7.2 to 8.0. You want your urine there. So dark green to dark blue. As you can see, mine is dark bluish. You can test your saliva first thing in the morning too, but many people like me have acidic saliva all the time. My dental hygienist once told me this a few years ago, and that explains all the cavities in my youth. Okay, so what types of foods lead to having an acidic body? Well, meat, dairy, sugar, alcohol, phosphoric acid in colas, and caffeine, plus excessive amounts of other acidic foods, such as a lot of kombucha or a lot of vinegars. And which types of food are more alkalizing? Well, legumes, also known as beans, nuts, seeds, fruit, and pretty much all vegetables, especially dark leafy green vegetables, root vegetables, and sea vegetables. Some people are cautious about adding too much spinach to their diet because of the oxalates in the spinach. To get rid of the oxalates, you can lightly steam or saute the spinach. In a previous video, I said that kale has oxalates, but I was wrong. It doesn't. Eating kale is a great way to get good nutrition for the amount of calories in the food. If I'm having kale raw in a salad, I prefer the lacinato kale, also known as dinosaur kale. I have a great recipe for kale salad in a video that I'll link in a card in the upper right corner and in the description box below the video. For curly kale, I prefer to cook it. I recorded the last time I sauteed curly kale, and I'll show you that next. I start with the largest skillet pan I have, but you can also use a large saucepan with higher sides. I pour about 1/3 of a cup to 1/2 of a cup of vegetable broth into the pan and turn on the stove burner to medium-high. Then I add chopped onions and chopped mushrooms. I put a lid on it and let it cook down for about 10 minutes, keeping an eye on the vegetable broth and adding more if needed. After the onions become translucent, I add 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. I think next time I might do 1 tablespoon of garlic powder instead. I stir that around into the broth with a spatula. Next, I add the chopped curly kale. I bought this bag of kale already chopped. I put in as much as the pan will hold without spilling kale. If I could, I'd use the whole bag, but I still had leftovers. Then I put the lid back on the pan. It's going to take between 5 minutes and 10 minutes for the kale to cook. I start checking the kale in 5 minutes. I want to make sure it doesn't get overly wilted. One way to test the kale for doneness is to use a fork and stab the kale stem with a fork. The stems take the longest to cook. The bags of kale still include the stems. Now, if you buy a full bunch of kale and chop it yourself, you can leave out the stems if you want. Without the stems, it will cook faster. I'll toss the kale with the onions and mushrooms to get the flavor of the garlic powder incorporated. You'll notice I haven't used oil or salt. Neither are necessary. So this is an SOS-free recipe, free of added salt, oil, and sugar. Last, I plate it up. That large bag of chopped kale cooks down to a much smaller amount of kale. Such a great way to get dark leafy greens into your diet. Of course, exercise for building strong bones is really important too. There's an image on the right side of the screen you can tap to watch my video about exercise for osteoporosis and the video with the kale salad recipe. Tap those and I'll see you in the next video.